Hey everyone, I'm Benjamin, welcome to my book club, and this is my March wrap-up. So I started my channel this March, so this is a really cool month for me. Just right off the bat before I get into the books, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that subscribed. My goal for the year was to get to 500 subscribers, and you guys have blown that out of the water, so thank you from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. You've made this month really fun, and as a result, I've read more books in this month than I've read in any month of my life. I read 13 books this month, which is a number I don't think I'm going to be able to keep up with, but we'll see how we go forward. But let's just jump right in. I've got videos for quite a few of these books. If I do, the video card will be up in the corner. Some of the others have videos coming. I'll mention that then. In my full reviews, I give more of a rating out of 10. In these wrap-ups, I'm just going to give a quick review and then just a 1 to 5 stars, I think. And then if you want to find out my full thoughts, you can check out the rating in my reviews. The first book I read in March was Earthstrike, Star Carrier Book 1 by Ian Douglas. This is a sort of a space opera, a military sci-fi, following the titular Star Carrier, a giant spaceship with fighters on board. And the fighters are the main focus, at least of this first book. So far in this book, and I'm assuming in the rest of the series, you're not going to be asked any hard questions about humanity, life, the universe. That's not what this book is trying to do. This book is telling the story of a fighter pilot and the captain of the Star Carrier. So far are our main kind of point of view characters. As humanity is in a war with an alien empire, the leaders of which we haven't even met. Humanity has met up with one of their vassal races that they have, I don't want to say enslaved, but brought into their empire. We spend 50 or 60 years trading with them on pretty good terms before the leaders of the empire find out we exist and demand that we join the empire proper or face the consequences. When we refuse to join the empire, they send another one of their vassal races to start destroying Earth's colonies. And it's a losing battle. They're more superior. We still haven't even seen one of those races because we just haven't been winning battles. And it has all the things I really like in military sci-fi. It really plays with the idea of light speed travel and light speed communication. So while ships can travel faster than the speed of light between systems, everything within system is seems to be locked to light speed. Which is really interesting. So you've got stuff like, if a fleet arrives on the edge of a system, they can see any other fleet within the system right away because the light from that fleet has travelled to the edge of the system. But the light from the fleet that arrived is travelling at light speed. So if that fleet then takes off at close to light speed towards the enemy fleet doesn't know that they're coming until they see them arrive, and then they're there because they arrived just behind the light of their arrival. And they really play on that really well in this book with close to light speed fighter screens moving forward from the fleet to hit at light speed, and ships having to take random maneuvering because you can fire missiles and whatnot from a long distance away moving at light speed. The ships in this are kind of like, you imagine like a ball surrounded by a malleable material. The ships can reconfigure themselves into the size and shape that they need. And it's really interesting. The characters are great. The main character we follow is from a part of the Earth that is kind of cut off technologically from the rest of it. They live on their own, not agreeing to be a part of this Earth Federation technology. They don't want to be tracked by the government and whatnot. But eventually he ends up having to go to them for help for his wife. And at that point they discover what a great brain he has for fighter pilot maneuvering, and he gets enlisted into the Navy. And he deals with where his real home is and where his loyalties lie for the whole book. Went on a bit longer than I thought I was going to with this one, but it was really good for what it is. A fun, pulpy military sci-fi. I really enjoyed it, and so I'll give it a 4 stars. So after Star Carrier, I read Beserker by Fred Saberhagen. There's a video for this one up there. It's a set of short stories set in a universe where ancient robots are trying to wipe out all life. And this is the story of humans battling back against them. As any short story collection, it's kind of a mixed bag. I enjoyed some of them. I didn't enjoy some others. Overall, 3 stars. Then we've got 2 series which I was reading in March. Instead of splitting them up, I'll just talk about them all together. The first one is I finally, after watching the movie, got around to reading Dune. So I read Dune, which I have a video of. Everyone knows Dune, 5 stars, fantastic. Then I went on and I read Messiah, which is still, spoiler alert, my favourite Dune book. I have a video of this one as well. Again, 5 stars. It's the epilogue to the first book. It goes back in time and recolors your experiences of the first book. It's one of the most powerful books I've ever read because of that sort of almost time travel ability that it has. And it makes me excited to continue the series. Then I read Children of Dune. A lot of people call this a low point in the series. They say that it starts to really going downhill here. And I couldn't disagree more. I loved Children of Dune. I loved the characters in this. I loved seeing more of Aaliyah. I loved seeing more of Leto. I loved seeing... I won't say any of the other characters, but I loved this book. I would say if you didn't like Messiah, then you should continue on and read Children of Dune, because it reminds me of the first Dune book. It's got that core adventure story in it again that Messiah doesn't really have. This one also easy 5 stars. And then we get to God Emperor of Dune, some people's favourite Dune, and my least favourite of the ones I've read so far. I think I get what Frank Herbert is trying to do with this book. It's slow, meandering, philosophical, and his writing is clearly gorgeous. His prose and his writing is fantastic in this book. And he really gets me into the head of the main character, who's this old, ancient person who's growing numb and bored with the universe and life. But it doesn't make for a very entertaining read, I feel. Maybe I might change my mind on this one on a reread in a year or so. But as of now, this one, I kind of struggled to get through. I had quite a few problems with it. I will do a video on this one. But for now, I'll just say 3 stars. The other series I read in March is the Bobiverse. We Are Legion, We Are Bob, For We Are Many and All These Worlds. I'm going to talk about these as one book because I don't really see them as separate books. They travel chapter to chapter into each other. There's no real ending or beginning or ending or beginning in these ones. The premise of We Are Legion, We Are Bob is almost my perfect hard sci-fi dark premise. A man is killed, and then centuries later his brain scan, his cryogenically frozen brain is scanned, and his consciousness is uploaded into a space probe with the task of finding habitable worlds for mankind. And that should be this nightmare scenario, this capitalistic nightmare. But in this book series, it's just played for comedy. So many things happen in this series that are fascinating to me. First contact, other races being wiped out, massive issues with Earth, political instability, dealing with what it is to be human. And the main character just quips about Star Wars and Star Trek the entire time through all of it. And my rating's going to be really low for this one, but it's just because of how disappointed I was. If you like comedy and very light-hearted reading, you're going to probably love these books. They come very highly recommended on Reddit. But if you're a big sci-fi fan and you're looking for big ideas, you're going to find those big ideas in this series. But I think you'll be disappointed like me in the execution of it. Overall, I gave all of these books, I think, 2 stars. Then another book that didn't hit me like I was hoping is Prince of Thorns by Mark Lawrence. This is the second book I've read for my fantasy reading challenge, and I was really disappointed with this one. I have a video coming out on it while going more into depth, but everyone told me that the main character in this book was evil and terrible and Machiavellian, but I just found he came off as a edgy teenager. I think he thinks about a lot of evil things that then doesn't act upon them. He wants to kill people because he's so much smarter than them, but then he doesn't. And the back of the book kind of promised me that it was going to be a group of bandits, and technically they are, but they're not doing banditry, they're just going on a quest for the king. I was disappointed by this one. This is 2 stars. Next up is Zone 1 by Colson Whitehead, a post-zombie apocalypse story about reconquering New York City. The army has come through and wiped out the majority of the zombies that are still there, and now we follow our main character as a reclaimer, going back through New York, killing the few remaining zombies that are still there, and helping rebuild the city. And the prose in this book is beautiful and grated on me somewhat. I describe this book as why use one simile when 5 will do. And it paints a really vivid picture, but it does drag in the end when every description has 3 to 5 different similes involved. And I get it getting into the mind space of the main character, but again, it didn't really work for me that much. But it's saved by the moments when things are actually happening, and the message of the book and the tone and whatnot really saves it. I really did enjoy reading this one, and I'm giving it 4 stars. And finally, we have the third book I read for my fantasy reading challenge this year, whose playlist you can find up there. The video for this one will be coming up. And that is Mistborn Book 1 by Brandon Sanderson, The Final Empire. And this book is one of the longer books that I've read, and it is so worth it. This book was so good. I loved almost everything about this book. I've got a few complaints, which I'll go over in a video, but they're so minuscule compared to how rich the world was and how lovely the characters were and how much I enjoyed the heist and the entire plot of the book. I finished this book, sat down to try and decide what I was going to read next, picked up half a dozen novels before I decided, look, I just want more of this, so I immediately moved on to the second book in the series. This is an easy 5 stars from me, and be on the lookout for a video coming up. I also, this month, read Sphere by Michael Chrichton on Audible. I think I started this in February, but I finished it in March. I did the bulk of it in March. And I liked it all the way to the end. Throughout the main point of it, it was tense and scary and lovely. And then at the end, the kind of supernatural power at the core of the story becomes too strong for the author, I think. And he struggles to find an ending that resolves within the rules that he's put in place with his power. I don't want to say too much because I want to spoil it. But I found that the characters used this power in really annoying ways, just really dumb ways. I could have thought of 1,000 different ways the character could have used these powers, and the characters never did. They didn't even consider them, and I was frustrated at the end. But I still loved my entire time with it, so I'm going to give it a 3 stars. I just want to wrap up March with a couple shout-outs of a couple booktubers that I discovered this month and I really liked. So I'm going to let you know who they are and point you to a video that I think you should go check out. First up is Diggerdan Reads. I think his channel, I think both the channels I'm going to talk about are criminally underwatched. Dan is fantastic. He talks with a really authoritative voice, and I've really enjoyed all the videos of his that I've watched. But the one I watched recently and really enjoyed and probably have to steal the format for is his video, The Top 10 Authors He Has to Read, where he goes through 10 authors that he's never read, the books of them that he's excited to read, and why he thinks they should be on his list. And it's really interesting, and I see a lot of people talk about books they've read and books that they're excited to read, but talking about authors that you've never read, I think that's a really interesting thought experiment to see where your gaps in the sort of chosen genres you read are. So I'd love if you guys could go check that out, and if you like the video, subscribe to Dan. And then the other channel that I'd like to give a shout out to is Crizzy Books. I posted a community post about Crizzy before, but he's fantastic. He reads a lot of the same sort of books that I read. He reads a lot of the manga that I've read, and he does fantastic manga reviews. His book reviews are really great. They're really short and to the point. And he talks about books in the way that I like listening to them. He's genuine and it feels like he's having a conversation with you, and I think it's really good. And his recent video about his top 10 books from 2023 is excellent. It's just the top 10 books that he read that year. And there's a lot of books on there that are fantastic. A lot of books on there that I've read, and the ones that I haven't have all been added to my TBR now. So you guys should go check out that video, and if you like that sort of content, subscribe to Crizzy. And that's March. I had a great month. I really enjoyed myself. I'm really looking forward to April. I'm looking forward to reading more books in April. I'm looking forward to doing some videos about the Our Fantasy Bingo card for 2024. I had so much fun making the 2023 video for Bingo. And this year I'm really excited to plan a TBR around it. I've already got some thoughts in my head about what books I'm going to read. I'd love to hear in the comments what you guys read this month. What was your favourite book of the month? My favourite book of the month has to be Dune Messiah. Dune Messiah was the best book I read this month. I'd love to hear what you guys thought about Dune Messiah if you've read it. I'd love to hear what you thought was the best book you read this month. And if there's anything on this list that you disagree with my rating for, I'm certain people are going to disagree with me on the Bobiverse and the Prince of Thorns stuff, and probably God Emperor. But I'll have videos for all of those coming up explaining my points. If you like this sort of content, I'd love a subscribe from you. If you could hit that like button, that'd be amazing. But most of all, just remember to keep reading.